The images that landed on social feeds this week are ugly and unmistakable. In a span of minutes during Real Oviedo's match with Real Madrid, a section of home supporters were captured making a repeated monkey-like sound, an onomatopoeic at moments that point directly at visiting players. One burst came immediately after Real Madrid's first goal when the team celebrated together, and another came around the 63rd minute when Vinícius Jr. stepped back onto the pitch. Those sounds were not background noise, they were audible, repetitive and directed. Within days, La Liga had filed formal complaints and the Royal Spanish Football Federation's disciplinary committee opened an extraordinary investigation, appointing an investigator to collate broadcast footage and contemporaneous reports and to determine what sanctions, if any, should follow. This is not an isolated allegation in the life of Vinícius. He has been the focus of repeated racist abuse across different stadiums over recent seasons, and each fresh incident piles pressure on Spanish football's institutions to show they will meaningfully protect players. The RFEF procedure is straightforward in outline, but heavy in consequence. The investigator will gather all evidence, including televised clips that were widely circulated, then communicate any proposed sanctions to Real Oviedo, who will have the chance to respond before the disciplinary committee issues a final ruling. The committee's timeline could stretch up to 40 days, meaning this matter could conclude before the end of the month with fines, match sanctions, or other measures if the evidence is upheld. Already there have been swift reactions off the pitch. National police have identified and detained at least one supporter alleged to have made racist gestures during the same match, and that criminal pathway runs in parallel to the Federation's disciplinary file. That dual track, sporting discipline and potential criminal prosecution, underscores how authorities are treating these incidents less as mere crowd noise and more as possible hate crimes that carry real individual consequences. For clubs like Oviedo, this brings both reputational and legal peril. Federations can fine teams, order matches behind closed doors, or impose other sporting penalties when crowd behaviour crosses those lines. For fans who want to see swift justice, the process will feel like it moves slowly. For others who argue about the difficulty of proving intent from crowd noise, the investigatory steps will look measured and necessary. What matters is that independent footage exists, televised and shared online, which gives officials material they can analyse rather than relying solely on match reports or single eyewitness accounts. La Liga's formal complaint on behalf of the league signalled that professional bodies are treating the allegation with seriousness, and the RF extraordinary opening of a file reflects the wider public intolerance for racist conduct in stadiums. Yet many players and campaigners argue that opening files is only the beginning. What matters is deterrence, accountability and systemic change to prevent recurrence. The consequences, should the disciplinary committee find evidence of racial chanting, could be significant: fines and stadium sanctions that hit a club financially and reputationally, match bans for identified individuals, and even broader measures such as enhanced stadium policing and fan bans. More importantly, the symbolic effect matters. Players must be able to trust that when they're abused, it will be investigated and punished. For Vinícius, who has endured abuse in multiple venues, every credible investigation is a chance to incrementally change the environment that has allowed demeaning behaviour to persist. For the sport, it is an acid test of whether federations and leagues can move beyond rhetoric into enforceable actions that protect players and punish perpetrators. As the investigation proceeds, several questions will determine how the story unfolds. Will the evidence be judged sufficient to attribute the chance to identifiable groups or individuals? Will sanctions be proportionate and public enough to deter others? And will football authorities use this moment to accelerate anti-racism protocols and fan education campaigns rather than simply issuing fines and moving on? The weeks ahead, the 40-day window the committee may use to conclude its file, will tell us whether this becomes another headline or a turning point. For fans, players and administrators alike, the stakes are clear. Stadiums must be safe, and when they are not, those responsible must face both sporting and legal consequences.